Okay. You are live.
Okay, thanks, Hollis. Welcome to the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission regular board meeting of January 27, 2022. We'll call the meeting to order, and Claudette has been taking down member attendance. So I think we can declare that we have a quorum, and I don't believe we have any visitors this evening to speak to us. Do we have any, if you've all had a chance to look at the agenda, we won't go for the adoption yet, but if you've had a look at the agenda, is there anyone here that might have a conflict of interest to declare? Nothing seen, nothing heard, okay. You've all had a chance to look at the agenda, and I know John's got something that he wants to bring up a little later on under new business. So, but as the agenda is presented, could I have a motion that it be adopted as presented? Okay, Wade, thank you. A seconder? Okay, Jim, all those in favor signify by remaining silent. That's a funny one. I got you on that one, Brad. It's unusual. Anyone opposed may say so now. Okay. Nothing, thank you. Adoption of the minutes of November 25th. I know those minutes have all gone out. Any comments on those ones? Okay, could we have a motion to adopt the minutes of November 25th, 2021 as presented? Okay, I got Alan that time. A seconder? Okay, Heather, thank you. All those in favor of adopting the minutes of November 25th as presented signify by remaining silent. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, passed. We'll look at now the adoption of the minutes of December 14th, 2021. You've all had a chance to review those. Any comments, questions? Okay, could I have someone move that the minutes of December 14th, 2021 be adopted as presented? Thank you, Jim. Seconded, Glenn Hawkins, thank you. All those in favor signify by remaining silent. Any opposed may speak. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move into business arising from the previous minutes. And the first thing we have on the agenda is the policing update. Glenn Hawkins.
So I guess since we talked about this a little bit in November, there's been a lot of discussion on the media and I guess in the news in general. So from what I have been able to gather unofficially, the province is looking at a provincial or even possibly, and again, this is just rumor more than anything, maybe even possibly a larger regional police force, maybe with the Maritimes. And again, municipal reform has given some of the public safety responsibilities to the Regional Service Commission. But unofficially, the information that I've been given is that our region should be thinking about what we want for policing in our area, get organized and try to get involved when there becomes an opportunity to have input to, you know, whatever does get recommended to go forward with in the future. So I guess that's really about all the information I've been able to get at this time.
Okay. Thanks, Glenn. Any questions, comments for Glenn on his report? Okay, thank you very much. Next, we turn to Hollis. He's got a local governance reform update. And with that, I'll turn it over to Hollis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a lot to report. I have met with our transition leader, who is Wayne Talon. I spoke to him on the phone, and then Ken and I actually met with him a couple of days ago and had a great discussion about, it was more of a high level, what's going to happen next sort of thing. But it appears that there's no firm, like Wayne doesn't have an email address yet. So, that's where they are. But one of the things that he did indicate is that he wants to form two committees from our Regional Service Commission, one being staff. So I've already contacted, and by staff, that means some CAOs in the region. It'd be Mark Porter, myself. So that's the staff committee that is going to meet every couple of weeks, I guess. And he's going to give reports back to ELG. The other committee that he mentioned he wanted to form was a more of a political one. Ken, I'm going to let you speak to that a little bit because we've had some discussions about that, but maybe you want to go forward with that one.
Yeah, we talked about forming the political committee, and Hollis is right. What we suggested with Wayne was that every 2 weeks there would be an alternating meeting, either the political meeting or the operations committee, or the what was the name for that again, Hollis? It's just gone right out of my mind. The staff committee. Yeah. So on that political one, when Hollis and I were talking to Wayne, following that discussion, one of our main questions was, who pays for this? Who's going to pay for these committees to meet, how to get together? And so before we select a committee or ask for volunteers on that committee, I'd like to have your permission to kind of hold their feet to the fire to see who's going to pay for this before we succumb or move forward in this one. So if that's okay with you guys, but then we'll try and sort out who we're going to have on that committee. But I'd like to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they're paying for this transition cost and not the Service Commission. There was a couple of other things that came out of that, and I'm not quite sure how we're going to address some of these issues. And one of them was, and I don't even know if it's my place to talk about them right now, but it's going to come anyway. And that is who's hiring CAOs and who's hiring other staff. And that to me is going to be a critical issue that we're going to have to discuss as we move forward here. I'm not one for having people losing their jobs because of a change. If those people are doing a fine job now, why wouldn't we want to keep them in those positions for the future? And it creates a lot of anxiety in staff who are working and potentially having to recompete for their jobs. So that's one of those issues that's going to come forward. We're not there yet to bring that up for discussion, but certainly from my and Hollis's discussions with Wayne, that's going to be one of the key things that we're going to have to look at. Alan, you got a question, comment?
Yeah, what you're dealing with is very similar. I don't want to cross over to another scenario, but I had our meeting with Entity 57 and our new facilitator, Don Fitzgerald. And I don't want to cloud the watch, but these are two separate things. We're talking about RSC. But anyway, what I want to say is it's the same thing happening on the municipal level or the new entity level as well. There is going to be some changes I'm going to be hearing about, hopefully by Monday, about the CAO thing. And my other concern was exactly what you said. They not only want to implement this new entity on in my case, would be the town taxpayers and staff, and to do the work. I mean, they actually literally at one point they wanted our CAO and his Treasury Department to lead this amalgamation, and then, oh, by the way, in November we're firing you. So yeah. I mean, it was just crazy. Anyway, yeah. Not to beat that to death, after after 2 days of talking on the phone with many people. And that I think I'm pretty sure is going to change, but I don't know how it works in the RSC side of things with Wayne Town and that bunch. I'm not sure, but it should be handled appropriately. Because I'll tell you my belief. No, there's no way we should be having a consultant firm come in and hire CAOs for anyone, because we're the ones that are going to be the board working with these people. I think, if anything, leave this stuff alone. Let the new entity make that choice and make that hire. Who would know better than the group of people that are going to be around the table as a board? So I don't think we should allow it.
Yeah, I'm right there 100% behind you. Brad?
I just want to echo both of your comments. I did send a note to my council, and I'm looking to go get some consensus from them to reach out to the province if Monday it's not the desired outcome. To have a town employee like we do, Chris Spear, employed for 15 years, to have to apply for his job. Our population didn't even go up 15%. I get to stay as mayor, but he doesn't get to stay as CAO. How is that fair? And that's his livelihood. So we're not going to take this one quietly if they don't change it. And if they do make us apply, the area is bigger. So you can expect the CAO position, the pay to go up. And the first thing we're going to do is pass costs on to the LSDs, like who pays for this, and then say he isn't successful and there's severance. Does the employer, the town of St. Andrews, pay the severance, or does the province, who basically made us let this person go? It's not a good picture. And then you've got rural New Brunswick, where a lot of us are. If I'm a young CAO and I'm not connected to a community, I'm going to apply to a bigger area to try to get a bigger pay increase. And the next thing you know, we've got a bunch of small rural municipalities or entities anyway that have no CAO available. So this just can't happen. And I'm hoping my council sees it the same way as me, and I won't be taking it quietly. I am going to check with the LSDs to make sure that the two in my area support this as well, to make sure we're acting together. But yeah, this one's a big issue for St. Andrews as well as St. Stephen and of course McAdam.
Yep. John Didarakis?
First of all, I had a technical problem while Glenn Hawkins was speaking. I raised my hand, but no one gave me the opportunity to ask him a question. So I'm going to take 1 minute before I get into the CAO to ask Glenn a question. Glenn mentioned in his policing report that he expects changes and more responsibilities passed to RSC with regard to policing. Can you be more specific about what these changes are?
You're
You're
muted,
muted, Glenn.
You're muted, Glenn.
So, yeah, sorry about that. I didn't get any information about that anybody else didn't get, basically, from the information that come out with the municipal reform responsibility, the responsibilities that were given to the RSC.
Because there has been talk about increasing responsibilities for the RSC in areas like economic development, recreation, etc. But I never heard the policing become a cog in the new RSC mechanism. So that takes me as a surprise. So if there is anything that you heard or the source, if you can give me information, I would like to follow it up and read on it.
So Hollis, if you're there,
Yep.
can you read the responsibilities that were given to the RSC?
Well, essentially, where it concerns policing, it's public safety, right?
Right.
So instead of having a policing committee, we're going to be forming a public safety committee, and I see Rhonda's here too. She can chime in if she wants, but basically, public safety is more than policing, right? So
Yes.
it's a lot of different. Anybody who works for justice or public safety is going to be connected to that one, but policing is part of it.
Okay, so it's a very, very broad definition of there is not any additional, I guess. We will not have like a police director in the RSA to actually take care of policing.
Yeah.
No, we haven't
Nope.
seen anything of that nature, John.
Okay.
It's just the public safety.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back now to the main, thing of the CAO. I just want to actually throw in another angle, because none of the previous mayors who spoke is facing the situation of being part of a restructuring which is going to have essentially municipalities negotiating with other municipalities, incorporated municipalities currently and until the end of the restructuring. This is a very unique situation in Area 53, which brings some complication. The CAO position is a fiduciary position with a relationship of trust between the municipality and the CAO. I won't go as far as calling him a legal counsel, but he is our consigliere on many things. So, given that there is nothing in the books about tenure of this position in the upcoming structure, it is very important, at least for our municipalities, to maintain our consigliere in a trust position. So in particular cases where CAO disappeared for whatever reasons, shortly after the amalgamations have occurred, and when the substitute senior officer has been recruited, poached, left for another municipality, it gives us a gap, which if we have to do any advocacy to the province, and I hear Brad and being ready to actually do that, I want to raise the point that, particularly during the transition, the ability to maintain this relationships for every municipality that's going to come to the table with a facilitator, to have that relationship of confidence and no source for conflict and collusion. Because right now, as it is, there is a lot of, I guess, said that a person who is actually in one municipality may be actually saying, or maybe I can actually work in a way that I can guarantee my position in the next structure. And that is not no one's job to decide now. It is the new entity who will decide who will be the CEO. It's not my job to actually decide that, or I don't know, it's Stephen, they have also another election. So I want to actually say that the needs of St. Andrews and the needs of a place like St. George are very, very different. And I want to actually essentially ensure that the CAO that we're going to have until we're going to deliver our incorporation certificate is our CAO, reports only to us, and he has a relationship of trust only with St. George. And we'll leave it there. I have to add a few more things later on, but for the time being, I will leave it there.
Okay.
If I can
Thanks,
add,
John. Yeah, Hollis.
Mr. Chair, if I can just add one thing, conversation I had today, one of my earlier meetings, when we were talking about, well, the CEOs of RSCs, but they were also talking about CAOs of municipalities.
Right.
The one comment was, if it is the province, and if you look at the timeline that they have put out, it is they are hiring an HR firm, and they're going to redefine the job descriptions, advertise and do interviews, and allegedly hire CAOs and CEOs. So if the province is doing this, the comment was, you can't serve two masters. And I think this is what John is talking about a little bit, right? So,
Yes.
you know, who does the CEO of the RRC work for, the province or this board? And the answer is this board, obviously. I mean, the province doesn't own the Regional Service Commission, and it's the same for the town of St. Stephen, St. Andrews, St. Black Beaver Field, or whatever that ends up being, you know, like it's same for any municipality. they shouldn't be working for the province, and I don't know where the provincial influence comes. So I think that there's work to do there. And you know, I say that at the risk of sounding like I'm talking in my own defense here, but that was the comment that came out of the meeting that I was at today, or one of the comments was you can't serve two masters. And so it's a little bit odd how it's been set up. But I will say this, it seemed, when I first saw the timeline, a lot of stuff seems like, oh, well, they're not telling us everything. There's some nefarious stuff behind the scenes. You know, there's some things going on. I don't think that's actually the case. After talking with some of the other transition folks, it's really more of a case they're just really not that organized. And, you know, I don't give them too much credit at this point. Their timeline is aggressive. I have my doubts it'll follow that timeline. Anyway, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but that was just my comments from earlier.
Okay. Al?
I just want to add a part to this. Mayor Dr. Otis was saying that how he feels. I mean, we all feel that let's say in any case where you got a council, they should be hiring the CAO or keeping who they have. That's definitely a council choice, or the entity council, whatever that may be. But that was not the case 2 days ago. 2 days ago, they were going to hire the CAO with a hiring firm. The province was with nothing to do with the mayor and council of as it stands right now. That was happening. I believe it's changing. I just got to, like I said, we're going to hear back on Monday. They should give them, the deputy minister said he'd give it till Monday. And also, I've been talking to UMNB, Union Municipalities for New Brunswick, for the municipalities, and they were also blindsided by this as well. And let's keep in mind too, this is not in the white paper. Right. This is not documented in the white paper how they're saying that it's supposed to be hired or doing the CAO change. So I just want to make that clear. So how what they're gonna come up with the fix, I don't know that yet, but we'll find out Monday.
Well, it sounds to me like we're all on the same page. I'm glad you reached out to UMNB, Al. That was a good move, and I'm glad they're aware of it, and they can bring some pressure to bear there too.
Yeah.
So okay. Any other comments on this one before we move on? Okay. All on the same page. I like it. Thank you. RCMP special meeting February 15th. 2022. I know that's left to me to discuss what they wanted to do, and I think they were going to. I'm not sure whether it came today or not. I thought we were going to receive the quarterly report on policing activity within RSC 10. Did that come in, Hollis?
It did actually, but I'm sorry. My apologies. I never had a chance to send it out to you, but I will do that tomorrow.
Yeah, that's okay. Not a problem. So you should all be receiving that. You can all have a look at that over the next couple of days. Over the next week, what they were asking is that we get our priorities from the municipalities or from council on what we'd like to see for policing. If you don't mind, I'd appreciate it if you guys could all put that together over the next week or two. Whenever your councils meet the next time, and send those 3 priorities or 4 priorities that you would like to see. If you could send those to Hollis, and then we'll get Hollis to consolidate those so that when we meet with the RCMP to discuss what our priorities are, that we can speak to the same sheet. Al?
I just want to put some thoughts in everyone's heads while we're thinking about this. First, I want to ask, are we, when we're talking about the policing initiative, and obviously we're talking about improving it, right? And yes. Are we thinking on making government changes as well? So I'll give an example. I would like personally in our communities putting up speed radar and collect ticket fines through that. So get the government approval on allowing these entities maybe to start doing things like that and use technology to increase policing instead of just boots on the ground at all times, right? So
Yeah,
I wonder if are we thinking that way?
Why not? I don't see anything wrong with that. Why don't we take a look at it and see how feasible it is? Yeah.
Right.
I have no idea what it costs, what the legal ramifications are, but I know they're doing it in other municipalities, so why not? Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I'm not sure in the province in New Brunswick we can yet, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe someone can.
Yeah, when I meant that, I was talking about other places.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
legislation did change in New Brunswick.
It did? It
Yep.
did? Okay.
Yep.
John, I see your hand.
Yes, I have 2 points, and I'm just trying to figure out how I can best put them forward for to be communicated. The first one is, if you read the news, speeding has become an issue in our municipality, and we are doing a lot to actually make sure that we respond to the concerns that some residents have brought to us. I don't know if that is issue also with other municipalities, speeding, excessive speeding inside the municipality. I just want to actually put forward, and you're probably going to hear about that from our CAO, that we are in search of building a database of compliance in our region within municipalities, to find out essentially what is the profile of compliance or non-compliance. How much, what percentage exceeds the speed limit by X kilometers or whatever. So I want to actually, this is kind of a, it's a question as opposed to a point. I was wondering if the RSC in any ways keeps a database of all the data collected by the instrument that the Service Commission has that lends out to various places.
No, that data goes straight to the RCMP. We never see it, or we can't see it.
Also, but the RCMP presumably may have a database where they keep this.
Yep, they might. I'm sure they do.
Okay, I guess that's one thing that we may want to actually find out. The second thing I want to actually mention, I just want to actually get a feel from the board. If we're hearing more and more policing issues happening, which may be related to the fact that our society is quite stressed. You hear thefts, you hear break-ins, etc., etc. Does any of the communities ever thought of or discussed the possibility of boosting up some sort of a community watch within the municipality, and seeking from the RCMP the tools to actually do that?
Yeah, I can answer that one. We did that in Macadam. We set up what we called the Village Patrol. It was a cross between Community Watch and another organization. Basically what we did, we went out, we had probably about 20 to 30 people. They went out between the hours of 12 and 8 o'clock when the RCMP weren't patrolling in the village. We kept track of who was moving around, where they were going, who was in cars, license plates, and that type of information. And we had a form that we worked with the RCMP, gathering that information, and then at the end of every night that was handed over to the RCMP, and then they took that information and built, I suspect, their intelligence data as to who was doing what to whom and when. But that did result in a number of charges that were being laid. So it does work, but you have to be very cautious in the type of people you have doing it, because it can't be too headstrong. They've just got to be able to sit back and basically observe rather than take any actions. I know down in St. Stephen, they had a little group as well that was working with the RCMP, and I'll let Alan speak to that one.
You know, that same group would actually move that sign around that Hollis has out there, and they would provide that service as well. Set the sign up in certain places for the RCMP, and it was a community watch program. I'm not seeing a lot of that going on lately, though. It has either not noticing, so I really don't want to say if it's still active now. I'm gonna have to look into that. But
Yeah. Ours only remained active for about 3 months, and then we disbanded it. We figured we had gathered enough information, and anything more that we were going to gather would have been just superfluous. It wouldn't have worked anymore.
we
So
got
that's-
Facebook
that's-
posts. That's working pretty good.
Yeah, that's 2 examples, John. And on the speeding sign or this, the radar that we have at RSC 10, it does gather the data as you stated. Once we conclude our activity with that sign, the RCMP do get back to us. They came back to us and gave us a pretty good feel for what was going on in the areas in which we thought there was a lot of speeding. And so they give you a pretty good rundown as to how much, what the percentage is that's going over the speed limit, how much, those kinds of things. Yeah, so that conversation does take place once that sign goes back.
Okay. The reason for which I put this thing is what Macadam described is quite a rigorous and aggressive I guess effort, a significant effort. I was more of more of a community outreach to actually encourage people to actually look on the neighbor's yard in a good way. I mean, so if a car is parked there, kind of encourage the culture of that big eye. That sometimes in St. John I saw a sign that had an eye, a community watch or a community neighborhood watch, whatever they're calling. And given what's happening, I was reading today social media, and there were a break in businesses and stuff. And so we have more and more of these things, and we're going to have more and more. So I'm just wondering if there is a need to actually, as a communities, collectively, raise our posture as a community.
What we did in Macadam is we put a thing out on our webpage, a notice, saying that we were aware that it appeared to be an increase in the number of break-ins in the community. So we suggested that, number one, people start watching each other's homes. Take your key fob with you to your bedroom at night. And if you think you hear something outside, or you suspect that there's somebody looking over your neighbor's house, if there's nobody there, just hit the panic button. It kind of shines a light on them. The other thing is turn your outside lights on. So there was a number of suggestions that we put forward in that notice to residents. Yeah, it's all really about education. Make sure your locks are done, and those kinds of things. Yeah, Alan.
Yeah. So two things. So I just want to ask a question just to compare notes. When you find you do raise concern about a local area, and I'm speaking to everyone here, of speeding, for example, and you do put the sign up and they come back with your data, are you finding out that the data is showing that there isn't a lot of speeding? Because that's what I get a citizen's complaint, and I get to go through the whole process to get the sign put up, and the data tells me, well, they really weren't speeding. They felt like they were speeding because it might be a narrow street or whatever. I just want to know what some feedback on others on that before I ask my next question.
Yeah, we had one area in Macadam where people thought there was speeding going on. And there was a little bit, but it wasn't significant. It was like less than 5%. Whereas in other areas, it was like 50–60%. So you knew that was the area where you needed to, if you could get the police to come into town and do the traffic control, that would be the place to be. So that kind of data is shared.
Just to add on, Ken, your comment too, that it wasn't a high percentage, but even the majority, there was one off, but majority of the speeding was just 0 to 10 kilometers over. Like it was people going 5 kilometers over that feels really fast on these roads, but in reality it wasn't. But our speeding complaints have gone up in the town of St. Andrews as well as obviously in St. George. So we are getting more. I dare say that people are starting to realize that the coverage isn't really there. So they don't really have to worry about running into a cop around the corner, and they're starting to take liberties with it. So that can spiral, get worse and worse.
Yeah, good point.
One thing I want to add, because speeding kind of appears to be a common denominator in all. The break-ins are also an issue, but speeding appears to be higher on the agenda. There is a, and perhaps the Service Commission can actually take the lead and give us some guidance on that one. There is an issue which has been discussed often, at least in St. George, about the duty of care that we have as municipalities to homeowners who may be feeling aggrieved by the situation. And one of the reasons for which I am pushing to get data is because we know that zero compliance does not exist. So we have to actually look statistically if we are doing the right thing and keeping at least the compliance where in the range that is generally acceptable. And the issue of the duty of care that we owe to our residents with regards to speeding, it's not fully scoped out. And if the RSC can do something to put some guidelines out that essentially what ought to be a standard that we should be aspiring, given the socioeconomic situation of our communities, that would be a great help. Because we don't want to be held negligent, and we don't want to actually, let it just ignore it.
It's a good philosophical discussion. Personal security is one of the primary duties of any government, and the provincial and federal governments take that duty with the hiring of the police forces. So you're absolutely right. If the government's primary purpose is to ensure the personal security of its residents, either through military use or through policing, through medical, through education, those kinds of facets. One of the things I found when I went through the policing contract with the province is it's a fairly lengthy document, but the majority of that information that's in there deals with boilerplate, or what I used to call boilerplate, was who pays for what and who's responsible for what. But there was only about half a page that actually delineated what the duties of the Rcmp with regards to policing are. And it's really the conduct of maintaining peace and good order. So there's no objects or no objectivity within that document to indicate what the objectives of the Rcmp are in regards to maintaining discipline, for example. So if you go into an area where, say you have a number of break-ins, should they be able to sort out how many were conducted by which individual and what? So there's none of that in there, but it's just very broad terms in that document. If you get a chance, have a look through that. And that's a good document to look through. Okay, anything else on policing? It's a complex issue.
Mr. Harvey has his hand up.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no,
I'm looking at, I see Sam, but I don't see
a second
anything
ago,
else.
people noticing the coverage. Are you guys seeing that
Oh, Harvey, sorry.
everywhere? You hear me?
I'm sorry, Harvey, you were coming through broken for us.
Maybe you can't hear me. Mic working?
It is, it's just broken.
I hear you.
Okay, well, don't matter. Probably isn't gonna work. Maybe internet's not very good down here.
Shut your video off and just leave your sound on. We can hear you, and that reduces the bandwidth.
Try that, Harvey. You're
He's
muted.
muted.
That work? Can you hear me now?
Yep, we
Yeah.
can hear you now.
No, yeah,
No.
Okay, now I I just heard what Brad said about people noticing about less coverage. You guys are seeing a lot less coverage in your areas too, like the RCMP?
Yes, yeah. Part of that is, if I can speak to that a little bit, my understanding is there's a number of RCMP officers out because of exposure to COVID. There's maternity, there's stress leaves. There's a number of reasons why we're short on RCMP officers in the region. So I would say from that discussion, I suspect you're all seeing less coverage.
I had two complaints this week, people that called the RCMP and they wouldn't come to the island or whatever. They tried to do everything on the phone here. So makes you wonder why you're spending the money, I guess.
Yeah, we had the same issue, Harvey, in Macadam. We had 2 break-ins. The RCMP were called. Their response was that there was nothing they could do. And I suspect it's because their prioritization, if their numbers are low, their prioritization is on personal injuries or personal assaults or crimes against the person rather than crimes against property. I know that doesn't sit very well, but I suspect that's where that's coming from. I am going to be speaking with Sergeant Stubbs on this issue tomorrow.
Also, since the matter was, because I hear a lot about complaints about the RCMP, but in our particular case, yes, there are complaints, but we also have praise. I had one lady who lives near our main street who actually called the town to make sure that the mayor knows that when she called the RCMP about some suspicious activity, they came immediately. So there are some positive feedback also. And at least, you know, my personal view, I never had a complaint. Long before I became a mayor, my daughter felt that somebody stole her dog, and within half an hour, someone was here asking what happened. So I think we should actually try to balance the various feedback that we're getting about the RCMP.
Yeah, no, always, Joe. Yeah. Okay.
Sam's looking to talk there.
Oh, sorry, Sam.
Okay, no problem. Just want to comment on a couple of John's comments from St. George. I'm all in favor of more education and persuasion guidelines, whatever, you know, to any of our members in our community as far as, you know, keeping their homes safe and so on. But there was one comment, John, that I would take issue with when you mentioned putting out standards. The RSC is not a government. We're a service commission, so we have to stay away from that type of. We don't make standards. Government makes standards. So where we should be heading is lobbying government for those standards, but not thinking about making the standards ourselves. This is a service commission, not a government. So I just wanted to. I think there's other ways that we can achieve what you're looking for there, but we don't do standards.
No, I did not ask for standards. I was asking for data that can help.
Well, you
each
mentioned
one.
You did mention the word standards, so that's.
I did. I'm sorry. No, I was looking for statistics. Does the RSC or the RCMP keep statistics of that measurements that they are making? Because each one of us, each municipality has a potential liability if it's found liable of basically charging the people for policing forces, policing and not delivering that. And there is no absolute compliance, but there is on the other end that somebody after may come and say, no, you are failing municipality by not doing your job to actually bringing speeding enforcement to a level that I will feel safe. So one's perception about what is safety may be different than what community in general agrees as achievable. And this is what I was hoping for data. I was hoping for statistics, because statistics speak. They have standard deviations and they have mean. And based on that, somebody, a judge or a council can say, hey, we are doing a good job or we are doing a lousy job. I believe in numbers. So I was not looking for standards, I was looking for numbers.
Okay, fair enough. I misunderstood you then. I heard you say you were looking for guidelines and standards. So if that's not the case, that's fine.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for your comments on that. Alan, you got another one. Okay.
Get something that does what that we can probably talk about. This email is fresh off the press here today that came to me from the province about the retroactive pay that's happening to the RCMP officers. That's going to be paid out by April 1st, or not paid back to April 1st, sorry, 2017. And it is talking about how that is going to get paid. And they're talking about possibly having payment plans set up for us, or will it be all at once? They're just throwing some stuff out there right now. So I just want to make sure that everyone that's paying for policing out here on this call knows that there is stuff coming our way. I do know that we do have money in the bank, so to speak, that they've been putting in the bank for us that we didn't know about, I guess, for the last few years, preparing us that we didn't know what we get prepared for. So that'll help cushion this payment. But they are intending to charge us for this, and they're just not sure how it's going to be. If it's going to be like a payment plan or over so many years or something like that. Give us time to absorb it.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. If it's okay, we'll move on to the next item. We'll turn over to the, sorry. Nope, nobody said anything. Okay. Let's turn over to committee and staff reports. We'll do the executive director's report first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, but was there one other item under new business that Mayor Didarakis wanted to bring up, or are we skipping?
Oh, yeah, if now is my time to speak, I will say it now.
Oh, yes, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm following up to what I mentioned before. I really like we are in a situation which is unique in St. George and Blacks Harbor. There were things happening in Blacks Harbor which aggravate some of the issues that we have to deal. We have a facilitator, we have a number of issues that they have to be discussed and decided, facilitated, or at the end arbitrated. And at the same time, Blacks Harbor experienced an acute loss of staff in fiduciary duties, and that is the CAO and the clerk. So we have received an emergency call. At least our council, which had a special meeting, considered it as an emergency call, and we reacted to it by providing a short-term help to actually allow them to function. A municipality cannot have a meeting unless there is a clerk. And of course, a clerk and a CEO position are both fiduciary positions. So as we move forward, we're hoping that either the province would have a contingency account that can actually step forward and help Blacks Harbor in a situation like that. And if the province, in its wisdom, missed the opportunity to have a contingency fund, I would have actually look around the table, this virtual table, and see if other municipalities may actually be able to help the situation in the next couple of months by either providing a clerk for the Blacks Harbor to function, or a CAO assistant, because Blacks Harbor and St. George have a unique relationship across the table as we go through the restructuring. I'm sure that St. Stephen or St. Andrews does not have that, and perhaps I should actually mention that St. Andrews is one of the places that one of these key people have moved or is about to move. So if there is any way of secondment for one day or what to actually cover this, it would have actually, if the province does not step in, it would have made a big difference. So that is the new business that I want to actually bring on the table and see if there is anything that the commission can do.
Okay, Al?
I almost see an opportunity here. For one, you're looking for funding. Wouldn't Blacks Harbor already have funding in place that would pay in their CAO or clerk now? And could that not be used to help in that venture? And also, I see, I'm just on the outside looking in. I don't want to speak for Blacks Harbor St. George, but I see two communities that are joining together, and I think it looks like a really good opportunity to actually get ahead of this that was already happening. Would it not be?
Yeah, and exactly that is my concern, that there is a key point where essentially we become from two parties across a table to one party. Until that thing happens, there are some really serious negotiations that have to take place. And you never go into any sort of potential adversarial, I will call it, where competing interests may exist. And there are competing interests. Having the same lawyer with both parties. It's a no-no in any administrative process. So this talk, let's have a beer and let's settle it, sounds good, but let's keep the administrative integrity in place. Each party in this negotiation across the table is entitled, and I as a mayor, right now I'm reporting only to St. George. They voted me in St. George, and my duty in the next 5 months is to make sure that in that bargaining across that table, I will actually uphold every opportunity to actually advocate for St. George. So I want my CAO to be on my side, advocating only for St. George. I don't want him at this stage to start thinking, hey, maybe there is an opportunity here. We're getting together, let's have a beer. It's all good. No, it's not all good until the fat lady sings. So up to that point, I feel that I have the need to insist that key administrative principles that each party is entitled to are upheld. And so I don't want Blacks Harbor money to pay for my CAO working there for 2 days a week. I want to make sure that my CAO works for St. George 100%. In fact, since our legacy as St. George Council is going to be decided in the next 6 months, I want him to actually work 110% for St. George, not 80% for St. George. So going back to that, I said St. Andrews has recently hired one of the key people. I don't know if she left, if she's leaving, but if there is any leeway for her to be partially working, seconded, 1 day a week or whatever, St. Andrews is going to do a great service to our regional cooperation mandate, if they can do that.
Okay, Brad, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I can certainly talk to Chris Spear about that, who's our CAO, but it would take her agreement as well, because that's not her job description. She was hired for the town of St. Andrews to do specific duties. So a little confused about the comment of and yeah, we're going to send one of the town of St. Andrews employees over there to negotiate against the town of St.
You're breaking out.
I think that's a really good. Yeah, it's probably the hotel. I apologize. I have some concerns over it. Obviously, we have another staff member who just gave a resignation as well. So we're not at full capacity right now. But at the end of the day, Mr. Spear would have to agree to that, and the employee themselves would have to agree to that because their job description doesn't mention covering the village of Blacks Harbor whatsoever. They weren't hired for that purpose. So it would take some conversation. And again, we do have another gap within the town of St. Andrews that was just announced. So we'll be hiring as well, and we're short-staffed.
I don't see this as service. I don't see this as service commission business. I see it as a business between the town of St. Andrews and the town of Blacks Harbor if they want to do that. This is not service commission business.
True.
Yeah,
Well, if I disagree for a moment, there is such a thing as a regional cooperation. And if you cannot cooperate, if somebody has like if you have if you have a fire,
You've just indicated you don't want to cooperate regionally, you want to cooperate for St. George only. The mandate is to cooperate for the region, the new region. So this is not service commission business. I'll leave it at that.
I think just to intercede here for a minute, I agree that the issue can be aired here. What we can do between is debatable. I think, Sam, you're probably right. It's something that would be left more at the municipal level to sort that out. But certainly I don't mind going back and having a chat with Wayne Talon. Hollis and I can bring this up with him and see if there's anything at the provincial level that they would be willing or capable of doing there. I'm not saying that there is or there isn't, but we could raise the issue with him. But John, it's a point. I mean, you're kind of in a box there if you don't have a clerk. I don't know how you function without a clerk.
We can function. We are fully staffed. But I'm going back to what Hollis mentioned, if I can capture my concern. Until the fat lady sings, and we have an agreement or a decision of an arbitrator,
Right. Yeah.
A CAO cannot have two masters. That's my point. And it's a very important principle. So it is not about, hey, we are all Eastern Charlotte, let's have a beer and we settle that. That's not the way to do business.
Okay, well, we'll take that under advisement. We'll see what we can do at our level. And at the same time, continue to talk to the other municipalities, see if they're able to help you. And we'll see what we can look at here at this end through the province. Yep. Okay. Is there anything else anybody wants to discuss under new business? Okay. So now we'll move off to the executive director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you went through the package, you notice my report this month is much longer than it normally is. That's because there's a lot of sort of annual wrap-up stuff in it. I'm not obviously going to go through and read every word, but I'm going to go through a couple of the highlights. So at the end of the year, we actually ended up with more waste than we had in 2019. 2020 was a low year, but 2021 it actually ended up higher. It was trending a little bit lower, so we did all right there. The building permits are off the charts, as you can see. So I did a little summary of the different lines of business that we've done. A little note on our waste cell construction, and we're moving into cell 12 right in the spring as soon as we can get it built, kind of thing. Our public drop-off area was a big success for us this year. We got that built, and I've had nothing but good comments about that, and the service that people are getting there, and the ability to sort garbage has just been very much appreciated from the public and the comments we get there. We put quite a bit of effort into our leachate treatment system, into putting it in the SCADA system. It's not complete just yet, but it's darn close. There's a lot to that, but that's really going to give us a lot of efficiencies and a lot of management capabilities. that was enabled by the network project we did the year previous, the fibers that we ran around the site. Capping, of course, it's a normal activity of ours, but it was a little different last year because we ended a row, so it was a little more intense. Landfill gas collection, so we are still working on getting the flare up and running. The problem we've run into is actually getting personnel to get there and parts. We've found the contractors, you know, we've got the people, but it's just a little bit delayed because of the same reason everything else is delayed, I guess. So we've done a few other things. We've increased the efficiency of a couple of buildings, including the administration building. And I must tell you, that has paid off in our power bills are about half for that building. I was surprised at just how well it did. Sorry. Yeah, so yeah, a few of we had to change the fire system in the recycling building. We changed it to a dry system, and the reason we did that was we shut off the heat to the building. There's no point heating it anymore. We don't actually do activities there like sorting, recycling, or anything like that. We just have somebody that's in a piece of equipment inside the building. And it was really expensive to heat, especially when the big doors are open. I mean, to the tune of like $10,000 a month this time of year. So shutting that off is a big deal for us. A little bit of a summary on our planning that happened in 2021. Quite a bit of movement on some rural plans. And those things are all valid still, by the way, even after reform. They do get folded into the new entities and the new mapping, but all of that zoning stays. It doesn't go away. And you can see the amount of building permits we issued last year, the value of them was close to $60 million. You know, the year previous was 33 million. The year before that was 18 million. So our planning department is processing a lot, and we're not doing it with more people necessarily. I think they're getting more experienced. You know, we've got 2 MCEIPs on staff now. We have just better experience and better efficiencies, and always looking to do that. So we did increase our building inspection capacity last year, and that's been a huge help to us. Some of the other stuff that's happened, the Provincial Solid Waste Strategic Action Plan. I just got yesterday actually the What We Heard document from that. They did a one-on-one consultation with us, as well as a provincial one that we were a part of. Part of that includes the PPP. Whatever that's going to look like, that's less organized than it should be at this point. But what I have heard, and I just heard this today, is that the group there, the Waste Reduction Division, they were leaning towards a management company that would be on the side of the brand owners that comes out of Quebec. But they're having an issue with it because GFL bought it. And so they're concerned about conflicts of interest, and they're concerned about all of our recycling ending up in Nova Scotia, where they just bought the landfill in Cumberland County. So I was really happy to hear that they're giving consideration to the fact that, you know, that is a GFL owned outfit, and that could be a conflict of interest for a lot. So we'll stay tuned on that one. Been doing a lot of work lately on the community inclusion networks. For us, that's Vibrant Communities, but around the province, it might take different names. In some places, it's not even functional. Ours happens to be. And I did meet with the board of Vibrant Communities at their last board meeting. It was last week, to talk about how it's going to possibly transfer to RSC, because that is part of our new mandate. They were more or less receptive, and the overriding principle we're looking at is that it will be to make it more effective, not less effective. So we want to be able to use economy of scale in our own administration stuff that we already have set up, so they don't have to duplicate that. Take some stuff off the plate of that board, maybe turn that into an advisory committee, because the Community Inclusion Network is actually going to be part of Regional Service Commission, not a thing unto its own. I'm also part of the Provincial Working Group for the transition of community inclusion networks. We also met today and worked through some of the things. I gave a presentation on what a regional service commission is and all that entails to those that were in that group that are not as familiar with regional service commissions as we are, obviously. So we've got two more meetings of that, and we should, out of that, be able to craft an MOU with ESIC, which will mean that's how they're going to transfer the funding to us and what their expectations are going back. So I will keep you up to date on that one. Public Safety Committee, back in December, Rhonda Hulan and I met with the Kent Regional Service Commission Executive Director and their REMC up there. They have a very good, functional, active public safety committee. So we just wanted to pick their brain a little bit, see how that was functioning for them. They've got a lot of good outcomes out of that, which are exciting because they're by using that up there, the officials are learning how to work with each other and what each other has and what they don't have and what they can expect. So we'll be working on that as the year progresses. It is part of our new mandate. Coastal Link Trail had their AGM. I attended a week and a half ago, I guess it was. I spoke a little bit at it because the Coastal Link Trail, and I kind of relayed this to the group, and they weren't aware of everything that is happening with local governance reform and the changes to the RSC. But I spoke to them because the Coastal Link Trail touches on a number of our new mandates. It touches on not only transportation and tourism and economic development and recreation. Not only that, but our region is actually expanding to include more of the trail once we add in Musquash. So the trail actually became even more relevant to our RSC. Blacks Harbor, as we were just talking about that, I just wanted to mention that we realized that there is some shortages in Blacks Harbor that came up suddenly. Blacks Harbor is not our planning client, so we made an offer to them, which we wouldn't normally do, to offer planning services until December 31st of this year. After that point, they're part of the new entity. So, but until this year, they have a number of development projects upcoming this year, and they really need professional help when it comes to navigating all of the requirements in zoning and development. So we have made an offer to them. I expect to hear from that next week. We wouldn't be offering building inspection services down there. They already have a contract. But on the planning side and development officer side, that kind of thing, we can help them out there. So we will see how that comes. I've already spoken to you about our transition, and Ken has spoken about that. The last thing I kind of threw into my report was about the oldest basketball court in the world. And the reason I did it right there was because I only received that email from Richard Fulton as I was writing this. So I put that in there, and then I put a little information in with the package that I emailed to everybody about the basketball project. They are looking for a letter of support from us. I need a motion from you to do so. They have told me, Richard told me that they've gotten some other support letters, but it really matters for provincial funding if it comes from a regional service commission. Like, it carries a lot of weight. So
can I move?
Can I
move for that?
Yes, John, you can move.
Yeah, I want to actually. I'm sorry for interrupting. I was just too enthusiastic because I know the people who are involved in that one. I would, if I like to like when it comes time to move for endorsing the support with a letter of support and endorsement. I move that as a commission we do that.
Okay, we have John moving that the commission endorse the letter of support for the basketball court project. Do we have a seconder? Brad,
Second that.
thank
Yep.
you. Any comments, questions on this one before we vote? Thank you very much. All those in favor signify by remaining silent. All those opposed may say so now. Okay. Thank you very much. Motion passed.
Thank you, everyone.
Our pleasure, Al.
And
Okay,
that's my report, Mr. Chair.
any other comments, questions on the executive director's report? Okay. Next one, we'll go back to Regional Collaborative Committee report, Wayne McQuarrie.
Wayne is not here, Mr. Chair, but I can do it if you'd like.
We'll do that.
So the committee met on January 13th to discuss two main items. Changes that will be made to the recreation master plan policy in response to municipal reform. And the second thing was, what does the 2022-2023 transition roadmap look like for the existing subregions? I'm not going to read through the whole report here, but it does mean the municipal reform does mean that there are changes we need to make to the policy. So that's what's in discussion right now. Recreation isn't a mandated service now. It was a voluntary service that you folks entered into previously. The reason that it's a mandated service for the province is because of this commission. I'm just going to say that, and so they've taken their template from us. So Sherry's been working very, very hard with that group. She does have a map there. So by Q1, we should have a draft of proposed changes to the policy done. So Q2 in April, May, we're going to continue with the zone committee work. And we're going to document some goals and objectives of the existing committees. Q3 is to establish the budgets for 2023 to support the incoming municipal budgets. And we're going to plan for the February annual recreation summit in Q3. And then we're not counting on Q4 being available to us to do much because, and I've been kind of saying this to most of our staff, let's leave some space at the end of this year because I think things are going to get crazy. So anything that we're trying to do by December 31st should really be done by September 31st. So let's leave Q4 alone. I'm sure we'll be able to fill it. So the next thing that is on that timeline is Q1. So by January, we'll be able to onboard the new municipalities and councils and revisit any goals that we have to at that point with the new members. That is the report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Hollis. Any questions, comments on that report?
I do have a question with regards to the new mandate on recreation. I just want to actually ask Hollis if there is any message that comes together with the new direction for changing our policy on recreation. If there is any statement, assertion as to who is going to actually pay for all these structures.
Well, I don't think that changes. There's been no official message from the province, if that's what you're asking, but I don't think that changes our structure. And kind of what we're doing now is what's probably going to continue, and I would continue in the rest of the province, I would guess. The point that I'm trying to understand is there was a limited engagement in recreation, and at least in our neck of the woods, and certain points of taxation were allocated to support it. But since it is clear that we are heading towards an increase in the engagement of the Service Commission in these matters, is there any commitment that the province is going to pick up this tab, either in the short term or in the long term? Because I understand there are transition matters, and my question is, no, because we have an obligation, as we're going to start talking taxation pretty soon as part of our job
as part of our job as people who will sit down with a facilitator, the taxation structure is one that we have to discuss. And that is a component which we do need to get some direction from the province as to what is their expectation when it comes to that increased demand that's placed on the commission, who's going to pay it and how.
I couldn't agree with you more. We do need more direction from the province on that.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question on that?
Right now, we're just making it up as we go.
But I asked a question on that.
Sam, go ahead.
I appreciate John's concern there, but I'm not sure what he means by it. But my understanding right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that this recreation policy is being paid for by 2 cents across the board for every tax assessment. So it doesn't make any difference whether you're part of St. George, Black Harbor today, or whether it's an LSD today or a municipality tomorrow. It's still the same 2 cents for everybody.
That's exactly right.
So why would there be any need to be an increase for any existing structures?
If I can answer your question, because you are
Okay.
posing it as a question.
Sure.
You are posing it as a question. So I just want to clarify. We have come to a point where there are 2 cents, as you said, which are paying for various facilities which have been deemed to have recreational value. But as we look forward, there is an apparent intent to increase the emphasis on recreation, and that costs money. So potentially these 2 cents may not suffice unless the province draws the line somewhere and says, you know, whatever comes after what we have now, we're going to pick up the tab, both for building it and for running it. And that is something that, as we discuss taxation down the road, we need to know.
I'm not sure that the intent is to increase that.
No.
John,
It's
I don't
not
think
to
that is the intent. And this recreation fund was never intended to 100% support every recreation facility. It was intended to help. I don't know that there's any intention on, and it's going to be different in every region, right? So the province is only going to give directives for the entire province, but each region is going to be make up their own, because every one of those has different needs. So
well, prior to the government changes, the government local reform changes and so on, the government a couple of years ago instituted a policy where they would not fund a new facility unless it had regional support. With the government changes, you now have a region. So like if the idea was to, for instance, for the Bayside, Chamcook, and St. Patrick to help support St. Andrews, we're still supporting whether we're part of them or an LSD.
Yep.
So if we were still LSDs and St. Andrews wanted to build a new complex, they would require collaboration with the LSDs if they existed.
Correct.
They're not going to exist next year, so the region is already there. So if Black Harbor, whatever that entity ends up being, St. George, Black Harbor, and so on, if they want to build a new facility, they have that region. They're going to be responsible for their facility, and the regional policy will assist them like we're doing now. But Hollis is right. This fund is not intended to pay for 100% facilities. So,
Wade, did you have a point? Did you still want to make it?
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It's up to whatever the new entities are, what their recreational, fees are as far as taxes go. The regional policy is a regional policy, and that's probably going to stay exactly where it is now. And it shouldn't go anywhere unless the region decides that they want to increase it somehow. So once, St. Stephen has got the 4 LSDs and they're all wards, and they decide they want to do something with recreation, then they can figure out how they want to get that through taxation. But that's different, completely separate than what this regional policy is.
Well,
Alan, you had a comment. You wanted to make?
Regionalization, so,
Sorry, Sam. Alan,
go ahead.
I'm actually good. Wade
you're good?
said what he
Okay,
said.
we'll go back to you then, Sam. Make your final point.
Well, I was just saying that was part of the government's narrative for amalgamation was to have regional cooperation. So now if you have separate regions that are bigger, then those regions they're already regionalized. So our fund is, I don't anticipate that changing. It's going to be exactly what it was meant to be, to to assist. And there'll still be the rural district. So the rural district, the orphans, they call us, we're still going to be putting in our 2 cents. So I don't see any change there, but no. Thanks.
Well, if I may say, I don't want to actually say too much, but I'm saying that I'm hearing new initiatives coming down to the Regional Service Commission. When they say recreation is becoming now an issue, or a mandate, that by itself requires funding. It requires staff. It requires the staff to do things that have some cost. The same thing may apply to another thing, economic development. My question is right now, based on what Hollis is getting as a message, is there any intent to actually increase the cost of the service commission, and as a result of that, pass on costs to entities? That's my question.
Not as far as I know. We already did it. The other regions have to, the other regional service commissions have to do something similar, but we've already done it. So I don't see it really changing much. Like Sam says, and like Wade says, it's pretty much, there's no new taxation or anything like that, as a result of our activities.
No, Alan, last comment.
Yeah, I think this is going to happen a lot with us moving forward before we ever get to January. But I think we're starting to cloud the waters here with the future that hasn't happened yet. And we got to understand what our role is as a board, and I have to understand what my role is as mayor and council of St. Stephen. As of today, I am responsible for the town taxpayers of St. Stephen, not this entity 57 that's coming up. So I have to work under those parameters now, and the same would go with this board. When I come to this board is RSC 10, and that's what we are right now. We can anticipate the changes and maybe not do some things between now and then, but we shouldn't be really clouding the waters with it right now. I don't think. Like I said, we've already made our decision for 2 cents. And that's working as it is right now. And what's happening in the future of RSC, whatever you're going to be called, that hasn't been mandated yet. No one knows. They only had one meeting. That's my opinion on that at this point.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Okay, I think we've hammered that one. So we'll. If there's no other questions on that one, we'll move into the Health Planning Committee report. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Alan.
Okay, all right. So we had a meeting with the committee that was formed, and Paul set up a great we had a great Zoom meeting with Elizabeth. I forgot her last name, sorry, but in Nova Scotia. I believe, at least I know that we got some great information from her on her challenges and how well it worked and all those sorts of things. So I think we'll take that information and move on to and to our next meeting. And I'm looking forward to February 2nd. Another one coming up. We're going to meet with Steve Bachman, who's also is working on trying to establish a clinic and recruit doctors, and he's been doing this for a long time. I'm looking forward to that meeting with our group on February 2nd. And really, we're just still in the learning phases at this point with our group. But it was, like I said, our first meeting went really well, I believe. And there's some great people in that community, that have some huge concerns and great input that's being shared, and we're learning something new every day. I guess we do have to establish what our role is. Like that's going to be one of our challenges, and I think by having these talks and after our next meeting, as I say with Steve, we may understand that even more. Yeah, I guess we got to find out what our role is. We can do all the things in the world, and we could even probably convince a doctor to come here, but they may take that doctor and put them in Fredericton for all we know. We understand if they're going to accept our work, I guess, so to speak.
Yes.
I guess where I'm going with that. And if anyone, any of the committee members that are with us tonight would like to add anything, feel free.
Any other comments? Okay. Thanks very much, Alan.
Thank you.
We'll go to Wade for the Human Resource Committee report.
Yeah, not much to report there. We met a couple times once in December and once in January to get ready for the ED's annual performance assessment. So we decided this year to try something a little different, and we're doing basically a self-assessment where Hollis rates himself. And the board met, went over a bunch of questions, and we're also going to do a electronic poll of the board members. Something very simple. I think there's 5 questions, and that'll be ready, and it will be distributed at the next RSC meeting in February for everybody to fill out. So that's it for that.
Okay. Thanks very much, Wade. And the final report is our financial report. And Hollis, I think you're going to give that to us.
Yep. So what you're going to see there is really just the summary income statement. This time of year, Merrick Porter is working hard on our year-end stuff. So this isn't an audited statement or anything like that, and Claudette's certainly a big part of piecing together what happened last year. But this summary statement gives you a pretty good picture. We are looking at a surplus, and it's looking like it's close to $900,000 surplus, which we discussed, last year at some point. Is our surpluses are getting a little large, and we need to talk about that going forward and what we're going to do about that. Everything else that you can see, there's this one here, this annual summary is pretty good because you've got the budget on one side and what actually happened on the other. Of course, that surplus comes from solid waste. For the biggest part of it, obviously, is solid waste. I mean, local planning, we ran to $27 within budget. I think that's pretty good. And the cooperative regional had a little tiny surplus of $1,800. That's pretty much all I'm going to say about that. Anybody have any questions?
One of the things that provides us with extra funding is the waste that comes in from Maine. Did everybody see that report that Hollis had put together on the trucking? So that was good news, and I just wanted to reiterate that. Alan?
Yeah, just a question to Hollis. Do you guys receive garbage on Saturday this weekend?
Yep.
Okay. Be prepared then. You could have interruptions.
Oh, right. But that's not here. That's Ottawa.
No,
It's local.
Anyway, just be prepared. That's all I can say at this point.
Okay.
I don't know how that'll affect you, but it could be interrupted.
Honestly, Claudette was talking to me about this the other day. Honestly, this time of year, Saturdays are a waste of time. We hardly see commercial trucks ever, and there's like a couple of private people. And so we've been discussing, we probably talked about this the last couple of years, but we've been discussing closing down Saturdays in the winter months because it's just really not worth, the 2 or 3 vehicles that we get. If there was a lot of commercial stuff, that'd be different, but there isn't on just this time of year.
Okay. No other questions, comments on the financial report? Any last items before we get set to do the adjournment or the scheduling of the next meeting? Any last thoughts that anybody has? Okay, we've been here long enough. The date and time of the next scheduled meeting is February 24th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And any questions, queries from the public, Hollis? Sorry, Wade, you got one last thing?
I was just going to say, with all this going on, the Regional Service Commission restructuring, the entities and the local government, everybody try to keep a positive attitude and try to think we're going to come out of this thing better than we are now. I know it's hard sometimes because there's so much up in the air, but I think if we keep positive attitude and work towards the goals at the end, I think it will in the long run be better. So that's it.
Concur. Thanks, Wade.
Well, I want
move
to
we
echo what
adjourn.
Wade, just before we adjourn, I just want to echo what Wade just kind of saying. Let's just think of how much, I mean, we were proof in the pudding here. The group that I actually brag about this RSC, how well it has come. If we can do what we have done, you know, what we got to go through it. We've been in training for this for the last 8 years or more. So you know, it's going to be fun and there's some tough decisions, but I think we're in good hands.
Thanks
Well,
very
you were-
much. Yeah.
Alan was right, one step at a time, and we'll get there. We're not the new entities yet, so we have to operate it, you know, as usual and do what we can, and then next year will be a different story, and might not be any of us around the table. Who knows?
If I can add also a last point, since everybody made a point, is it's nice to be positive, but it's also nice to recognize the reality that when the planners were planning the schedule that we're going to face in the next 9 months, they knew that we're still in the COVID contingency. And as it happens, that is still affecting us greatly in the ability to work together, in the ability to do things, in the ability to get supplies, to actually hire staff. So, you know, Hollis mentioned something at some point that indeed the schedule that they have put us through sounds over ambitious, or I don't know if you heard the word unrealistic, but it's worthwhile to actually keep up the notion that perhaps, particularly, we don't know how things are going to evolve with this COVID, that we may have to actually say that some of the things cannot be done. It's nice to have a dose of realism.
Thanks, everybody. I did get a motion to adjourn from Dennis. And
I'll second that.
I think he's gone. Anyway, thanks very much, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Wally.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night. I find out how to get out of here.